YouTube, what's going on? Just thought to come on here live in the flesh, like real quick as I'm running some errands. Just got done doing like groceries. Talk about the new time rules in the TCG. It's gonna be a hot take, but I honestly think the new time rules are just gonna be godsend. They're actually really well thought out. It's going to be really beneficial to the game. One of the reasons why I came on to let you know my take and just kind of give you guys like an alternative perspective on the matter is because there's like a lot of talk in the community like this is going to ruin the game, this is bad for competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, by like a lot of these like top YouTubers saying this, yada yada yada. So I'm going to give you like the quick and dirty rundown of what the changes are, and then like the pros and cons, I would say, and like what are the implications in terms of like the game and what it means for like deck building, competitive events, etc. So 5 minutes have been added to your overall matches. Only top 8 is top cut in all events from tier 1 and tier 4, so locals, regionals, whatever it is. There's really no more draws. Time procedures now, if nobody beats the other person, like as in like reduces their life points to 0 in a best of 3, then it is a double loss that's been granted. Both players have like 5 minutes to deliver that message to the judges, if it's like originals or whatever. Sorry guys, someone like literally almost just decimated the road here in terms of an accident. Well, yeah, so there's duty to report, so a lot less draws. Top 8 is standings, etc. It's so yeah, you have like a lot of YouTubers saying like, oh, this is really bad for competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, no more like top 64, no more top 32, no more top 16. Yes, but at the same time, what Konami also said in terms of the prizing structure that they recently also added in, like like your tramp stamp, the Vec Veiler, your card trooper, that's still staying the same. So it's top 64 at like a YCS still does get the card trooper. Top 32 or like 16, whatever it is, they get like the Vec Veiler, they get the packs, those like top cut packs, like the day 2 packs or whatever, which are they have pretty good value. Like if you are one of those serial YCS attendees or pro YouTubers that goes to all these events and you want to recur some of your money back, that's still not changing. So like no more deck profiles of like, oh my god, I made top 32, but yeah, like on the record, the official ruling is gonna be top 8. So yeah, with that being said, like what are the cons? Well, one of the cons is you can no longer use draws to your advantage to potentially push for better standing in a period of a long tournament, because also the tournaments, if I failed to mention, like they're going to be longer because there's more rounds of Swiss, because they need a definitive top 8. It's not like you go top 32 or top 64, then you go elimination rounds. It's just top 8 cut and that's it. So there's that. You used to be able to like, okay, you're in a bad game state, like I don't know, in the later rounds you burn for time game 2 because game 1 was like a super grind and you like still lost, and then you burn your opponent for time, you draw the game. No more of that. That's actually a double loss, so that could be a con. I mean, like it is kind of like a scummy way to force like rounds into draws instead of taking the L, even if you're in like in a game state, which kind of leads you to think where I'm going with this in terms of my perspective. Yeah, so that's a con. No more draws that can be used strategically. It's going to be like really hard, I think, to also like top these events now, right? Because it's only top 8. So that's going to be like really much a prestigious thing to get done. And then also like in terms of deck building, like you maybe want something that's a lot more streamlined in terms of a deck, consistent non-engine, consistent engine to non-engine ratio, a lot less garnets, a lot less like just splashing random engines to everything, like a lot less like Fiendsmith. The reason you don't want to do that is like the more complex your deck list becomes in formats where we play on turn 0, where game 1s are now like going into a lot more complicated game states. You know, like that can be seen as like a con, like a lot less, you know, diversity in terms of deck building, right? But you can see that as a pro or a con, right? Like if you enjoy like jank, maybe this isn't the rules for you, but if you prefer like consistent decks that you can like do your homework against at any given like tournament where there's gonna be a lot of meta relevant decks, then yeah, that is then a good thing for you. So that's the cons, right? The pros, well, the pros, you have 5 minutes extra to your initial 45, so you do have more time to think. You still have to play at a reasonable pace. Like judge call for stalling is still a thing. Losing in time though, even when like you are in a winning game state, is no longer going to be a thing. Like that's a pro. So yeah, that's a pro. Like that's a good thing. We're on the pros section. So like, let's say like you're a Malice player, or like you play cards that like you, I don't know, what's that psychic deck, punks. You gotta pay 800 to just like use a random effect. You now no longer lose. Like your opponent doesn't have to like randomly start asking you 21 questions about what your deck does game 3 after you've already answered all the questions, you know, games 1 and 2. That's no longer a thing where they can just like essentially do those legal actions. Those are legal actions in Yu-Gi-Oh! In big tournaments that could potentially lead you to lose, and could potentially just ultimately allow you to like not even play the deck, because who wants to pay 800 if you want to run punks? Or who wants to play Malice, even a better example, because you're going to pay like half your life by the end of the combo and still potentially lose because your opponent's going to start like reading your cards and start taking their time in terms of thinking about how they want to interact with you, even though they're in a losing game state, right? Like I've been there, right? Like I play Malice, or even play Heroes, where you resolve a hero lives, you pay half your life for cost. It's a special summon 1 body, just kickstart your combos. And, you know, essentially they just start asking you 21 questions, even though they're in a losing game state. You broke like their board through droplet. They don't have hand traps. They don't have much interruptions left. And they're like, oh, sorry, time got called. I win. You know, now I get to be in better standing to win, like, you know, 2 packs at the end of the tournament from this $5 locals. Like, there's no more of that. Because although that, like, not only is that completely shady to do it like a local level, like come on bro, but like it's absolutely horrendous to have happen to you at like a big event like a YCS, right? Like you're in a winning game state, you want to just kind of get into like a gentleman's agreement with your opponent and figure like, hey bro, like clearly like you're in a better standing, you got better resources, I don't think I'm winning here, you broke my board, or etc. I'm going to concede. We don't want a double loss, because double losses absolutely are worse than just actually conceding and taking the L, because if you take the L and your opponent gets the win, they are going to take you up in the rankings through the longevity of a big tournament. So there's that, right? Like drawing is no longer a strategy, which is a good thing. You know, that means less bubbles in the longevity of a long term. And the tournaments now are like more Swiss rounds, so you know, if you top, or like you're doing good, like you've earned it, you absolutely earned it. The stamina thing, the stamina argument of like more rounds is like tough on some people. I get it, but I mean at the same time, like the people that are topping are going to be playing more rounds anyway, so why not have everyone just play more rounds, and you know, you just definitively have you know, more like consolidated presidents of the people that are actually performing well. And like the reality is, the what I find is going on right now, like the YouTubers are saying, oh, you know, like this is gonna be bad for competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Like I spend all this money going to like all the YCSs coming up in like the next like 2-3 months, and there's like 7 of these events, and because I'm playing more rounds, I'm gonna brick more, I'm going to you know, have more uncontrollable losses as a result. If I take a double loss now, I'm definitely not guaranteed top 8 just because I got matched up with the noob. The reality is, like, the whole noob situation, in my experience, like when I face noobs, they're not even deck building correctly, so they're just being stopped dead in their tracks if I go first or second. And what that ultimately means is the games are actually ending like in 10, 15 minutes. So the conversation of like, oh, a noob is gonna lead you into a double loss. I think it just kind of goes to show like maybe your deck building is incorrect. Like, why aren't you stopping your opponent quickly first or second? Why are you going to game 3 against the noob if they're like slow playing? Like, if they're a noob, they're not just slow playing, they're just not deck building correctly. So yeah, the noob conversation is just so relevant, I find. And then finally, like I think what's also happening is, that's a really good thing, is like what I call gentleman's agreement, like gentlemen checking the game state of who actually, because no one wants a double loss. I think competitive players are going to understand you don't want to go into double loss, and not only do you have the extra 5 minutes, but like people are going to start having these like meaningful conversations, like wholeheartedly, like pro player to pro player, mid-core player to mid-core player, like, hey, like, hey, you broke my board, we're kind of on time, I'm just gonna concede here, like, hey, what's in your hand, like, could I have broken this, could I not? Then we kind of move on from there to see who actually wins. Like, I think that aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh! In tandem with the extra 5 minutes is going to mean a lot less draws and a lot less actually meaningful games that actually get your opponent to 0 life points, instead of just, there's 5 minutes left on the clock, instead of actually playing the game, I'm going to like semi-break your board, burn you for like 200 life points, call it a turn. Like, no, that's no longer a thing, because like the reality is, like, the purpose of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is to kill your opponent. It's not to just stall the game a little bit, play around like the weird rules that we have in time for Yu-Gi-Oh! And then just burn them for time and say, hey, see you later, I'll take you to the top. Like, that's not how Yu-Gi-Oh! Should be played, because so many game states I've been in that happens where, like, I'm clearly controlling the game, I'm clearly winning if I had just an additional like 1 minute or even 2, but the opponent is asking 21 questions legally in their own right, but they're not doing it because there's an actual winning situation here. They're doing it because they just want to draw it out in time or win in time. So in a lot of cases, I've actually always played time cards where I was able to use them on my opponent during the situations where, like, I know you're being scummy, I know I'm going to win in game state, but just to be safe, I'm going to burn you for time on your turn, so that way you can't even argue that, you can't even argue that, like, you didn't lose just because I didn't get your life points to 0 in time, right? I think also, like, those two rules in tandem against a good pro is, like, 5 minutes added double loss is just horrendous to have on the record. If you're going to make, like, quicker game 1 and 2, is, like, you're going to get into, like, game states where, like, they just get so complicated and, like, you definitely feel like you're losing. You just might as well just scoop it up and go to the next game, so that way you're in a little more simplified game state that's a little bit more manageable. But yeah, that's just kind of like my 2 cents. I'm a little bit like distrusting of a lot of like the YouTubers out there saying, oh, these new time rules are bad because you're only gonna have like 8 winners. Well, the reality is, because you're gonna have 8 winners and like there is gonna be that risk of like double loss and like the increase in rounds, meaning that there's more uncontrollable losses due to bricking. Well, I mean, I put the onus back on the player. Like, the player needs to figure out a way to streamline deck building, play a very consistent list that has similar hands every single time. Like, there's similar outcomes every time you get into a match. Does it kill creativity a little bit? Maybe, but like, I would say, if you're a good pilot and you know your deck, you can still be creative while having a consistent list. So I just feel like these YouTubers are a little bit disingenuous right now. Like, it's, again, I get it. They want to sell you the spreadsheet. They want to sell you the coaching, and rightfully so. Those are good services. I'm not against those services. I've done them. I've done a coaching service before. I've sold my own spreadsheet before for heroes. But I just think that what the new rules do is just, it's really, really shitty when you lose in time and you've controlled the game, so you've done everything that you can. Just your opponent wants to, like, disrespect you by start asking you questions, and it's a legal action. It's just, what they're doing. They're making it look normal when you and them know very well what they're trying to accomplish here, which is just to draw out the game, improve their score overall. So yeah, I think the new rules are going to be great. And like for the average, mid-core player, like for 99% of the community in Yugioh, I think this is actually great, because this just means when you go to your locals, you're going to have 15 minutes for a match. You're going to have a lot less draws. Like there's no more of this thing where like, okay, you're going into the last round, you're playing for first place, you're at table 1, and you lose, all of a sudden you get pushed back to like 5th place, you didn't top, just because table 2 and 3 all decided they're going to draw, because they happen to be friends and whatnot. Or if they genuinely did draw, like they genuinely, like, again, try to use draws strategically. And it's worse when it happens in like regionals, right? Like regionals, it happens, and I've seen judges actually give warnings like, ahead of the final rounds where like any collusion or any conversations about like giving people wins or giving people agreeing on draws is absolutely forbidden. Well, why not have the rules also back up that notion by just punishing it with a double loss instead of a draw, right? Again, guys, the whole point of Yu-Gi-Oh is, like, you can make all the friends that you want, but I'm still trying to get my opponent down to 0 life points. And maybe I'm a little bit biased. I've always played decks like Voiceless, Kashtira, Blue Eyes, like very mid-range yet explosive decks that very quickly can put up damage and just get your opponent out the game. Like very rarely, even against combo decks like Malice or Bell or any of those like Snake Eye decks, very rarely did I ever feel like games even went 45 minutes, like they went the distance. Usually like I was done with 15 minutes on the clock, if not less. And that is like the trend that Yu-Gi-Oh is actually going into, that Konami is pushing, right? Like Yummy is very mid-range, Vanquish Soul, K9 is, has the potential to be a combo deck, but it can still play mid-range. Vanquish Soul is absolutely this format of mid-range deck. Like it's 2 traps set and like 5 mana in hand plus hand traps. Mid-range deck, that's the definition of a mid-range deck. I think like we're, coming into a more balanced Yu-Gi-Oh format, like more mid-range, more interaction, tier 0 plays. You're always in it. You're always in the game. That's what I think Konami is starting to realize is really good for business, but really good for game design as well. Because nobody wants to, like, let's get serious. Nobody wants to play those formats again where, like, full combo Snake Eye because you open 1 hand trap or 0 hand traps or even sometimes 2 hand traps. You play into a board and you just can't beat it, or you just like hand trap, molesting each other just to see who opens the most hand traps plus starter, like 1 card combo, or even like U-Bell Fiendspell was the worst example I thought, because that was even more of a crazy one before even the Molcharmies were released, to try to like put a throttle on that type of deck design. So yeah, all in all, guys, don't trust the naysayers out there. Don't trust these big names in the community right now. Like they just want to like consistently get top 32, top 64, so they can get on YouTube, sell you the spreadsheet, sell you the coach, and rightfully so. Nothing wrong with that. There's no good pricing for them to make money to do this as a source of income. So they are scared about, like, if I don't top 8 and I have 7, 8, 9, 10, Y6 to 10 next year, does my brand now diminish, right? Am I going to be able to sell you content, to sell you resources to get better in the game if I'm not putting up those consistent records, right? Because top 8 does mean you're going to see like a lot more diversity in players who maybe not necessarily have had like names for themselves. Like you're going to get a lot of like, I think, random people who are, they're semi-good, but because there's going to be like the losses to variance is going to be more painful because it's a longer tournament, and longer tournaments just by default mean more break hands. What that is going to essentially mean is like, any given pro player that shows up to an event, their likelihood of getting top 8 is less, and that means the likelihood of people who are also in the tournament is also going to increase. So you're going to see a lot more diversity in the top 8. Like there's going to be a lot of names rolling across these big events. Like people are going to start to get discovered, actually, which is a pro thing, which I think like the big names in the community just don't want to have happen, because it cuts into their limelight, right? And I get it. Like they're not bad people. They are trying to turn this thing into a living, and I totally get it. But like from where I stand, like someone who's like myself, mid-core, you know, I go to locals now once a week because of my kid. I go to regionals every once in a while, maybe like once or twice a year now because I got my kid. Maybe a YCS if it's like local. I can't travel because of my baby. There's the baby seat right there. That's no longer possible for me. Like, I still consider myself relatively competitive in the game. I play like the best decks or try to innovate using those engines that come out in any given new format. But like the reality is, the new rules are just it's going to save the everyday Yu-Gi-Oh player. It's going to stop those like scummy moments when it comes to time, or it comes to like game 3 time procedures. And you know what? Like, it's actually going to simplify deck building at those bigger events. Like, you're going to see a lot more streamlined decks because they want to play a very like simplified game just to avoid going into really late game states around like the 50-minute mark, because that's just a huge risk, right? Like the double loss risk is just obscene. So it's actually just even more strategic to, you know, if you see it, gentlemen's agreement. If you see you're losing, gentlemen's agreement, you got it, bro. Take me to the top. You're gonna start to have a lot more of those like respectful conversations, I think, and those respectful conceding to duels, just because again it's a bigger risk to take a double loss than just take a singular L. Last but not least, I think also it's gonna be a really important one. It's gonna be coming with a story. I think there's gonna be a lot less disrespect from strangers at events. Like my very first regional that I went to, and this is before I became like relatively competitive, relatively adept at the game. My very first regional, I had a guy like call a judge on me, and he was like yelling at me. He was disrespecting me essentially publicly. I was publicly shamed in my very first matchup, my very first regional ever, because I was trying to burn for time. Ironically, right? I was trying to burn for time because not because like I was actually slow playing or anything, but he was actually asking me a lot of questions because I was playing a rogue deck. I was playing heroes. So I was trying to summon out like Dystopia in time, burn him and just get on with it. But then I messed up the combo and I didn't get there. And so he called judge because essentially was saying like, oh, you should have just passed turn if you knew you messed up the combo. Well, the reality is I had plays and I was trying to go for a play that was actually going to be a winning play under the legal rules that we were playing in, you know, prior to the current rules that we have as of today. You know, the judge ended up citing me as like, no, this is completely legal. Like, you had plays, you make those plays. Doesn't matter if you messed up. I can see the time card in your extra deck. This is a draw. Please proceed with signing. For me, like, that was very discouraging, right? Like, that was my very first moment at competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it's my very first regional, my very first round in regionals. Like, to get, like, there's a lot of pressure. And I'd messed up anyways, and I got punished for it by just a random stranger, just disrespected. Even though I did everything in my power to try to be as legal as possible, and the judge did side with me, right? In the future, like, you know, that could have been a conversation with the opponent. It's like, hey man, like, I don't know what you're doing, but like, we're up on time. I don't want to take a double loss. Oh hey, I'm trying to summon Dystopia in time. You know, which isn't going to be a relevant play. Like, maybe you just now summon something else. You summon, like, DPE, which is an interruption. So, here is the board I was going to make, buddy. Can you break this? Oh, you know, like, I have these cards. Yeah, maybe I can break it. Or, you know, maybe we don't even get that far in to actually require those kind of gentlemen's conversations. Just because you have that additional 5 minutes where I still do my full combo. Then he sees the board and he's like, I'm not going to realistically break this. Please have the win. Take me to the top. That was literally what would have happened if we were going into today's rules. And, you know, I just think, like, the idea that double losses hurt more than a singular draw or loss now actually begs the question, like, your opponent now has the incentive to respect you if you guys are complete strangers, in case that there are these, like, weird things that come up in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! And, like, food for thought, like, guys, if someone disrespects you in Yu-Gi-Oh!, just play it out. Because if you're like me and you don't care about a double loss, like for me, I care about calling out disrespect and doing well at a regional, or like, it's fine. Like I'll win all my other matches. I'm that good. Like I'll win all my other matches. I don't care taking a double loss. Just, you know what, more motivation to win the rest of my matches in any given tournament. Just send a message to the guy across that, like, your disrespect will not be tolerated. You know what? You're going to take a double loss. It's going to set you back for your actions and behaviors. Because a double loss is not illegal. Like, if you think that you should be playing it out, you should play it out. You should go into time. It's just going to result in a double loss. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents. I think the new time rules are going to eliminate those crappy draws in any given, like, regional or local event that just easily bubble people out that did really well. Now, if you want to win your tournament and get, like, prizing, if you're like serial and sustain, like, yes, you have to grind a little bit harder. There's less margin for error, sure, but like, you're a pro anyways. Show me what you're made of, right? Like, you know what? Take it to the next level. Like, yeah, you might lose a little bit more to variance here and there, but like, I just think the cost of like having players miss out on good standing in tournaments because they got sharked for time, like they were literally asked 110 questions in time, even though they were in a winning game, say they're controlling the game, is just absurd to me. Like, that is not how you play Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Should be about who's controlling the game, who's controlling resources, who kills the other person. Because I can't kill you if you're asking me 21 questions. It just doesn't. I have to answer your questions. I can't get them. Yeah, so it's 99% going to be like, the rules benefit 99% of like the player base. Locals and regionals are just going to be just fine because regionals is not made anyways. Yeah, less time rule BS. And I think just, be 15 minutes. So people are going to not only be playing a little bit faster to avoid double losses, but you just have more time altogether. It's win-win. It's literally double whammy. And then, yeah, like gentlemen's agreements are going to be a thing in case games do, go long enough. I think like at the 5-minute mark, people are going to realize, you know what? I'm in a winning game stage. Gentlemen's honor. You can have the win, bro. Take me to the top. And that should be how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is. Like, you shouldn't be asking so many questions at the last minute and you have like 0 interruptions. Like, that is scummy stuff. Like, that's very, very scummy stuff. So yeah, guys, that's my 2 cents. I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace. Do not fret. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is still a really, really great game to play. It's the best game, the best TCG to play. And I'll talk to you guys on to the next one. Peace.